either this is going to be brilliant or you're completely mad and taking unnecessary risks with how comfortable your life is.
And here we go. Hey folks, I'm here with Lacey Cadieux. She's speaking from Canada. And it's a special episode for me because she's launching a brand called Rhubaia. And Rhubaia is a fashion clothing brand and an app. Well, thanks so much, Lacey, for your time. I'm actually genuinely honored to have you on the show. And welcome to Alex Marxs podcast.
Thank you, Alex. Very happy to be here with you.
Lacey, takes us back to the moment you realized something was genuinely wrong with professional clothing market and what we're wearing, and what did you find out? What was the exact moment you thought, I need to fix this myself?
So there really was a moment that came when my husband is a professional firefighter. He's a career first responder. It became very important to him to make good choices for his skin. So as firefighters, they're exposed to a lot of toxins and obviously burn off from smoke, but also their uniforms, what they wear. There's a lot of fire retardants and water repellent coatings on their uniforms. And so they're just exposed to a lot. And so he made a conscious choice to say that, look, I'm exposed to a lot. Workplace caused cancers are a thing for firefighters. And he said, I'm going to do what I can in my life away from work to try to clean up the environment that I'm in, the clothes that I'm wearing, as well. He has skin sensitivities. So he first started the journey to wearing organic clothing and clothing without all of those coatings that might be kind of seeping into the skin. And as a result, I started educating myself. I have to admit, like, I spent the better part of my life not really worrying about toxins in my clothes or toxins on my furniture or anything else. And it really was it took a little bit of time, I guess, for me to start being a little more interested, and started learning about microplastics as well from our plastic-based clothing. And as you start kind of like slowly investigating, slowly learning more, you're like, oh, and you start kind of realizing that, yeah, we're wearing these things every day. We're being exposed to these things. We do like to go out camping or hiking. We have a lot of like waterproof materials that we have. And it just, you kind of slowly but surely start this journey of educating yourself and just being like, wow, I never considered how much on a day-to-day basis we truly are exposed. And so he was a very big part of me starting on this journey and starting to learn a little bit more about it. Well, then here I am starting to want to make more sustainable choices and choices that are a little healthier for skin. And I could not for the life of me find anything online that worked for me. So I spend the majority of my days online, actually, just like this on the video calls. And I'm like, I just want a nice blazer. I just want a nice shirt. I don't want it to be coated with anything. I just want it, when I'm done with it someday, I want it to return to the earth and biodegrade and not end up microplastics in the environment and in our water, in our air, and the oceans. And yeah, it was truly a challenge to find beautiful professional clothing that was, kind of marking all the check boxes. So I kind of started percolating this idea. Maybe I should do this myself. Like if it's not there, and then that's a market opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And so I took a fashion certificate course.
Okay.
I didn't mention to you this before. I started, I was like, okay, well, I'll take a course. And so I took this like online course, and then I think I mentioned previously I was taking my kids to New York, and there was a fabric expo happening in New York in Manhattan. And we went to this, and they really are starting to explore sustainability across the board in the fabric world. Like, that this is the future, and they know it. And so I started again educating myself, learning more. And then I came back from that trip. Like, I was already formulating the company, everything was coming together, and it was already kind of like the wheel was in motion. But then it really became real. Like the passion, I don't know what it is inside of us, but like with me, once the fire is lit, there's like no stopping. It's
Right.
like, it just feels like, it almost feels, I'm going to get almost like mystical, but it just feels like you're just being driven to do something. And it just feels like you're supposed to. And it's like written in your life timeline. Like, I got to do this. If I make it to my deathbed and I don't do this, I'm going to regret that I didn't at least try. And so that's kind of where the clothing brand came from. But I have about 16 years of experience as a IT project manager. And so I was like, how do I meld this sustainable, this clothing brand that I wanted to start with technology? And I really did realize that it started taking I'm a very process oriented person. So it's like, I was looking at the process of what happens once you purchase the clothes at a retail store or it arrives at your door once you order it online. And it felt like the whole life cycle kind of breaks down at that point, right? We all stand in our closet every single day and we waste
True.
a lot of time, and it's probably not even great for our mental health because we stress, especially with special events in our life. Like, what do I wear? So I was like, why can't sustainability and technology come together? Why can't they meld and help each other, help reduce stress, maybe build a community, help people to come up with outfit combinations, while also helping them to make sustainable choices that are good for the environment, that help reduce textile waste, help them learn about the different toxins in their clothes. And Rhubaia really was the result of kind of those two avenues converging, the healthier living and the efficiency that we need to find on a day-to-day basis when it comes to managing our wardrobes.
All right. It's incredible how this idea came up, and how you used as well, like your personal story with your husband to build something meaningful to the world. And I actually have a question on that. You mentioned about the toxins, right? Most people have no idea the work clothes could be affecting their health, for example, as you mentioned in the story about your husband. What are the most shocking things you discovered in this journey and about the materials used in the mainstream professional fashion, and why the industry is so quiet about it? Because I honestly don't see much.
Well, microplastics is something that for a long time, I think that we didn't really fully understand. And they're present in our world and everywhere you can think of, like even a Keurig cup when you have your coffee in the morning, right? The little needle pierces the top of it, you can get microplastics into your body from there. So that was really the biggest thing is that there are fabrics that we utilize in our clothes that they take up to 200 years to break down in the environment. So if they end up in
Wow.
landfills, they're outliving you. So on top of the fact that they might have coatings on them that are seeping into your skin, such as anything to do with wrinkle resistance, for example, a coating that helps to reduce wrinkles. I mean, we all love that coating because it makes, again, life easier, but it doesn't mean it's good for you. So that is, sometimes there's formaldehydes in those coatings. The new clothes smell can sometimes be formaldehyde. So formaldehyde is a carcinogen. And so
Right.
we're just exposed, and it's just one example in our daily life of the toxins that we're exposed to. And I think that completely escaping them is maybe not, it's going to be pretty difficult, but we can make small incremental choices to help reduce, just like kind of what my husband is doing. He can't escape it. It's a part of his job. And I mean, they do what they can to help keep them protected, but there's no getting away from it when you're a firefighter. But you can take steps to try to reduce it in other areas of your life. But the textile waste thing was huge. That was a big learning for me. Textile waste is a massive growing problem in the world, and we need to start thinking about it pretty seriously, because the clothing that goes into the landfills, taking 200 years to break down. One thing, when we say break down, they don't just return to the earth in a beautiful way. They break down into these little minuscule plastic particles that just seep into our waterways, make it into marine life, for example, oceans, and then we reconsume them either through seafood that we're eating, or there's various different ways that it returns back to you, because everything is a life cycle on Earth, right?
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about sustainable clothes and about natural clothes is when you're done with your clothes, they return to the environment. In a wastewater environment, they will return to the earth. They'll break down, but they're not going to break down into these little minuscule plastic particles. They're actually going to return to the earth in a beautiful way and contribute to making everything green and beautiful, right? So it actually goes into the name of Rhubaia. So Rhubaia was originally motivated by some of the, I guess, when I thought back on my childhood, there was a big rhubarb plant that that we had. And here at my house in Calgary, I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, I also have 2 big rhubarb plants in my yard. So I had a really good memories, good association with it. And so the first part of the name is from the rhubarb plant. And then the last part of the name is from Gaia. And Gaia is the personification of Earth. And so that's where Rhubaia came from anyway. Little side story there.
That's interesting because you put together a lot of things that means a lot to your life. Your husband is paying, and then your career and how to connect your career to your brand and also like your childhood story. The whole pieces of these elements built Rhubaia what it is. It's quite exciting.
It really was. It was just like, how can I bring this all together into a platform, into a system? How can we improve the system of how we purchase our clothes, how we decide what to wear on a daily basis? How can we improve not just the clothes, right? But also the system associated with selecting those clothes. And how can we make a difference? I mean, I'm getting older, right? I'm in my 40s and I have teenagers, and anyway, so how can I make a difference with the time I have left? And this really was kind of bringing that all together, right?
Very good. And you mentioned that you spent more than in tech project management, a word away from fashion, on the surface at least. How did that background actually become your biggest advantage when building Rhubaia? And what did you know how to do from day one a traditional fashion founder wouldn't? Like, what did you spot that a traditional fashion founder wouldn't take as you?
It would be incredibly tough. I mean, starting a company at any time, there's a ton of lessons learned, and you're going to make a ton of mistakes, and you just got to kind of roll with it, or you'd never even start, right? The differentiation for me is I have spent years and years delivering successful technology projects. So I had a lot of years of lessons learned. And also a learning of how to establish a productive team. What do you need to do to reach your deadlines? How to build a project plan? Who all needs to be involved from a resourcing perspective? How do you execute testing? To get into the tech space with no experience would be very difficult because you kind of need to know how to execute a successful project. So the years that I spent in the project space, and I still am freelance consulting, is incredibly important. It would be very, very difficult to execute a whole new system, a new way of doing things without that experience in technology. Not saying it's impossible, because I actually believe anybody can do anything they put their mind to, but there would be a lot of extra lessons along the way that I had the, I guess, privilege, we'll call it a privilege, to learn before I started on this endeavor.
Interesting. Actually, taking into consideration, I think that's an advantage that you have that many people wouldn't. The fact that you came from tech and you're building the app puts you like ahead in terms of execution and the process, because you have as a project manager, you have that in your DNA. So you have to be very good at the process.
Well, and also after years in projects, like, I've loved my career. I feel incredibly blessed to be in the career that I did, that eventually opened the door for me to do this project. But one thing you learn really early on is no day is the same. And every day you're going to have a new problem. And as an entrepreneur, that's the life of an entrepreneur. No day is the same, and every day you're going to be having to resolve something new. You really have to love it. You have to love climbing that mountain, kind of the ebbs and the flows, the cycles of starting a company. It's inevitable. It's not going to be a smooth path. There's going to be dips. Honestly, sometimes it's going to feel like you're climbing Mount Everest, but you just got to keep going. because eventually you're going to get to the other side. But you just got to love the journey. And being a project manager really over the years teaches you to love the journey and love that you never know what's going to happen next. You embrace it. It's part of it, and it's totally normal. Whereas I think somebody that hadn't been doing that for years and years, they might think, what am I doing wrong? How come every single day there's something new happening? Versus being like, you know what, this is just part of it. And every company and every single project has these things. There's no escaping it. And you just embrace it and roll with it and figure it out and enjoy the process of executing, hopefully, a successful project.
That's very good. You mentioned before when we were talking about Rhubaia is launching across over 175 countries.
Yes.
For someone building a fashion brand for the first time, how do you even begin to think at that scale from day one? And what does
the clothing line itself? We're going to take it in pieces. The app, it's going to be available broadly.
Oh, it's the app.
The clothing, we've set up our system the way that we've designed it. It's very easy for us to add new countries to the mix.
Okay.
So we're initially launching the clothes in Canada, England, all of the European Union, Australia, and the United States. So we're going to initially go with that. And then as everything stabilizes, we're going to continually add more and more countries into the mix. And then with the app, though, it's everywhere that the iOS and Android Play stores serve. So it's a large list of countries that if you want to download an app off, say, the Apple Store, that you're going to be able to, I think it's like, it's well over 100, maybe 150 plus. And it's different. The number is different between Android and Apple.
Okay.
But yeah, so because they're already set up to service those countries just through their Play stores, it makes it a lot easier for us to roll those apps out and have them available a little more broadly across the globe.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and it's there is pilot programs and steps that we're taking through our testing process internally that we're making sure, obviously, that we're going to be prepared to support all of those people.
That's cool. One thing that you mentioned about the app is the AI-powered virtual closet app, and that's Rhubaia app, which I think it's what sets apart Rhubaia from the others. Can you just talk a little bit more how it works in real life? What does a woman actually experience when she sees or uses it, or any other individual actually use the app? And how does it generally reduce waste and simplify people's day?
Well, one of the major problems that people have with wardrobe management apps, there is other options out there, is it takes a long time to upload all of your clothes into the closet. And so people really struggle with having the time to do that. At Rhubaia, I can't get into, of course, all the details. Don't want to give all away the secret sauce, but we've spent a lot of time trying to solve that version 1 because it's going to continually evolve over time, right? But we've tried to make it as simple as possible and give the users options on how to help them to render their clothes into the closets in the quickest ways possible, but also give them options so that they want to, say, share with family and friends, or have people be able to access their closet to help them. They're going to be able to, again, not getting into all the details, but the shareable aspect of our virtual closet is really what sets us apart. We know that it's a bit lonely out there, right? So the consumer, when we're all standing in our closets trying to choose our outfits for the day, how often do we wish we had somebody on our shoulder just being like, does this look good? Is this a good combination? Or can you give me some other new combination to wear? That's what the AI technology is going to really introduce. It's something that people can turn to. And I mean, people are already really embracing AI. They love talking to it. It's become like a counselor for people. I don't know if that's a good thing when you talk about the security of that, but
sure.
They embrace the AI. And so now we're bringing that AI into the closet with them. You can turn to it. It can give you outfit combinations. It can tell you what the weather is in your city or your town, wherever it is that you are on that day. And it can help you to make those combinations with the clothes that you have. So it's going to help you to shop your closet, essentially. Because a part of our journey with helping the earth, right, is reducing textile waste. Well, a lot of clothes are only worn 7 to 10 times. and then they're
Wow.
forgotten about, or they are thrown out, or end up in the landfills. And so really what we want is we want people to start keeping their clothes longer, utilizing their clothes longer, shopping their closet, coming up with outfit combinations. And that shirt that we all have in our closet that we've kind of forgotten about, that's tucked into the deep recesses, hopefully it finds its way back to life through the AI outfit combinations. And so that's one aspect. But then we took that a step further even, and we said, we're building a community here. So some people don't want to talk to the AI. Fair enough. So what if you're in, like, I'm in Calgary. What if my sister was in Dublin and she's got a special event like a birthday? I can now enter her closet in Dublin with her and collaborate with her and help her and really share in these very special experiences that people miss out on, especially when they're far from each other. And a lot of family members are, right? Like, say you want your mom's advice and your mom's in LA and you're in Paris. Now your mom can come and help you and give her helpful advice, and you can actually collaborate and have this beautiful experience where you're not alone in these what can sometimes be stressful choices. And now you're building memories and you're collaborating and you have this beautiful social space. And so, yeah, what sets us apart from the rest is our shareability across the board, is the fact that we're not viewing this just as an app, and AI. We're viewing this as an experience. We're building a platform. Now, the other thing too, and we really view this as the future. So we're trying to pioneer how clothing integrates with virtual wardrobes, but we're also selling virtual versions of our clothes. So when you go into the Rhubaia, and you can go see this now because our website is live with pre-orders, you can purchase a physical item of clothes, or you can purchase a virtual item, or both. And the virtual item means that if you're not ready to buy that physical item yet, but you want to try that article of clothing on in your virtual closet in your app, you're going to be able to do that. Or if you want to have your physical item and your virtual item in your closet, you're going to be able to have both of them as well. And of course, again, everything is about improving the user's experience and introducing a system that is more usable, not kind of piecemeal, because everything is a bit fragmented right now, where, you go buy your clothes over here, you're trying to manage your closet over here, which is pretty much not automated at all right now, the clothing selection, the process. And we looked at this systematically from like a holistic process perspective. And we were like, look, the process is broken. It's fragmented. How do we bring it all together to help everyone really have a better experience when it comes to their clothing selection, when it comes to introducing sustainable options to them?
Quick break. If you are enjoying this episode, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss the new episodes with CEOs, founders, and professionals like Lacey. All of Lacey's links are in the description. Connect with her on LinkedIn and go follow Rhubaia to see how this brand is growing and plays out in the real world. Now, go back to the episode. Enjoy. Interesting. I love the part as you mentioned about making experience and make that shareable, where your friends or family can be part of it. That's actually very cool. The other aspect of it, you mentioned about the sustainability piece on the clothing. Sustainable fashion has the reputation for being either too expensive, too casual, or too plain. How did you crack the code of making eco-conscious clothing that is also elegant, professional, and something that the individuals actually can wear every day?
So it is more expensive to produce sustainable clothes. And it shouldn't be, but it is. And it's partially because I think of all the certifications, and like the GOTS certifications, for example, to make sure that it's from organic sources, that's ethically sourced. Ocotex, to make sure that it's indeed non-toxic. A lot of the clothing, in order to produce a sustainable piece of clothing, it goes through a lot more audits And there's a lot more that goes into making sure that article or that fabric that's being used even to produce the clothing is indeed, say, organic or low in toxins. And so that increases the cost. So what you pay for the fabric that goes into creating the sustainable clothes, it's a lot more. Even when, you're producing the clothes in what would be more affordable countries to produce clothing in, it's still a lot more expensive. So unless we find a way to make the fabric and the production of the fabric more affordable, sustainable clothes are always going to be a little bit more expensive. And that's unfortunate. It's kind of the way I describe it is when you're buying organic in the grocery store.
Sure.
To me, actually, this is crazy that it's more expensive. Like, we really have to find a way to make it more affordable for the general consumer, because isn't it wild to think if I want to buy my blueberries that don't have toxins on them, I have to pay more money for my non-toxic blueberries. So it's basically saying that healthy, great choices for your health are only for the upper crust who can afford to spend more money. The lower income people are stuck buying their toxic blueberries. Like, this is wild to me. And unfortunately, though, being in the sustainable space and now knowing the costs associated with going into producing a sustainable line, there is a lot more costs that end up having to be considered when you're pricing out the clothes. So yeah, unfortunately, we're trying to make it approachable and affordable, but at the same time too, it's not nearly as affordable as the clothes that don't have to have all these extra audits and certifications. But the way I really do compare it to is those blueberries, where it's like you kind of have to look at the cost benefit and be like, do I want to spend a couple extra dollars or have my toxic blueberries?
Sure.
We don't judge, actually. Whatever you decide. But we want to make sure that there's an option out there that obviously considers a person's health.
Since you touched to this point, the other day I was going for a lunch. I went to buy a drink. A can of Coke was like €150, and the bottle of fresh orange juice was €4, the same quantity in mLs, right? And I was like, okay, it actually puts you on the spot, because you think, okay, I'm going to spend like double or even triple for something, but I ended up like getting the orange juice because I'm always conscious that what I'm eating or drinking, especially because I love sports, and that impacts my performance. And same time, as you mentioned now in clothing, I think people don't realize how that impacts in their health. And at the same time, honestly, on our first call, I only realized the dangers, of the whole thing after you educated me with your insights and so on, because I had no much idea of it.
Most people don't. Like, I was in that boat not very long ago. I had no clue. My husband started telling me about these things because he was really, really zeroing in on it. I remember him telling me, like, when we were trying to purchase some furniture, and of course, any of the coatings, right? The water resistance, when you buy a new couch, maybe from a few of the online sources, and it comes to you and it's got a heavy smell, like a chemical smell to it. Yeah, he was very adamant that we start making choices about that are non-toxic, even in the furniture. And it was just like, initially I was just like, why are we complicating life? Like, I just want my couch. And but then you start thinking about it and you're just like, I guess, why are we so disconnected from this? Because we all have family and friends that are getting cancers, right? We see this happening and we see people suffering. And yet we continue to make choices and think that it's not going to have a long-term impact. And a lot of it's to do with ease. And that's why trying to make things easy, trying to make things collaborative, trying to build a community for our customer is so forefront of our mind, because we realize that a lot of choices are based off money and ease that end up impacting your long-term health, your kids' long-term health. You're cutting years of your life off. And in some cases, you're increasing the likelihood of having certain sicknesses as you age as well. But unless you have the time and care to educate yourself and research this, how are you going to know? Right?
Yeah.
So part of this journey is we do believe we have a responsibility to present this information and put it out there in a way that the consumer can understand as well. Who wants to go read a long educational cited journal that is scientifically accurate, right? And we use those journals for reference points. So we love those. We need those. Obviously, we need peer reviewed and everything, all the information. But generally, the consumer needs to learn about these things and the dangers of them in little chunks. And then they can consume it and they can think about it and they can sit with it. And it takes a little bit of time to kind of process and being like, I remember learning about the Keurig thing. I brought it up as an example earlier about the coffee. And I was online and a doctor was talking about how she never uses those coffee things. And I was using them every day. And I was just like, then I started every time the little needle would go into the Keurig, I was just like the little capsule. I was just like, that's right. There would be little plastics like falling into my coffee right now.
Like,
right. And so what you went through just learning about your clothes and the toxins, that's you had your coffee, like what was my coffee moment. You're like, oh wait, like, and so many of us are on this journey. And I think the biggest thing is I still have synthetics in my closet. It's really expensive to replace all of it. And again, there's not it's partially options issue too, because we're trying to help with the options with Rhubaia, but that we can do more. So we don't want to judge anybody because we're still on our journey as well. So we don't think it's realistic to just do this big shift and all of a sudden, you're making all these sustainable choices. You can it's okay. And we're allowed to slowly, incrementally make these improvements. And we're here for it and we embrace it and we support everyone. So no matter where they are in their journey with learning about this.
That's lovely. Now, if you allow me, I wanted to get some drama over Rhubaia, some actually, not drama, let's put in a way, some challenge if you can explain to us, because I've been speaking to business founders, CEOs, and professionals, experienced professionals, and every founder has a moment where they seriously questioned whether this is going to work. So what was yours and what kept you going through it?
So I own Rhubaia 100%. I have no investors right now. And that is scary in itself because I'm investing, every spare penny I can into the business and taking a certain amount of risk to get this thing off the ground, which really tells you how much I do believe in it. And so I've had many moments of like, either this is going to be brilliant or you're completely mad and taking unnecessary risks with how comfortable your life is and what you're used to living. Sure. So I think that I've had a lot of moments like that. I also realize that every entrepreneur has these moments. So many entrepreneurs have like mortgaged their houses to get their companies off the ground. They have maxed out their credit cards. They have done, they almost all have stories like this. In order to pay their people their salaries, they had to get really inventive in ways to keep the company running. And because Rhubaia has been building in the background here pre-revenue, we have just been investing into the company because we believe in it. But it's just around the corner. We're releasing here in spring of 2026, and we're really excited about it. But it's been a risk and it's been a journey because we're just everyone involved, even if they're not pouring their money into it, they're pouring their heart into it. There's a whole team working with me. It's an incredible team. They truly believe in what they're doing and they can't wait for people to experience what they're seeing because they're seeing it day in and day out. And yeah, that's really been for me. It's just like fighting the internal battle of, I think a lot of entrepreneurs and people who have started companies have also said, you have to fight that feeling, that your body is trying to protect you. Because the second that you feel risk, it's natural for our bodies to be like, no, like our brain starts firing. Don't do that. That's dangerous. You kind of have to fight through that and be willing to take the risk that comes with it and just being like, okay, body, like I know you're telling me stop, don't put yourself in danger, but you kind of have to reason with it, right? And just be like, but there's a great benefit and this is a fabulous thing and this is going to really help improve people's lives. And you kind of like battle with yourself and you kind of have to be like realizing what's going on right now with my fear that seems to be, because it's not every day, it's some days where the fear kind of bubbles up. What's going on? Why is it coming up? And and reason with it, be logical with it. And then you can kind of overcome this natural mechanism that we have inside of us to protect ourselves from risk. And then thank goodness, right? Like, look at some of the greatest innovators of our lifetime. Like, they all had that same experience. There wouldn't be a lot of the social networks, for example, in our world that have changed everyone's life had there not been founders that had to fight through their fears, that had to get up every single day when maybe their body was screaming, this is a crazy idea. Who needs Facebook?
Sure.
I'm sure Zuckerberg has his stories, right?
Mhm.
There's incredible female stories as well out there. Spanx, I think she started, that was Sarah Blakely, I think. She started it with $5,000. She was a fax sales person.
Okay.
In her experience. I mean, she built that up. Again, I'm sure she had so many days where she was like, having to believe in what she was doing, even when nobody else believed in her. And you really have to find that fire and just hold on tight, because it's going to be a ride, but it's worth it.
Well, one thing that I noticed speaking with business founders, they're very much like-minded in this sense. And I don't know if you ever had the opportunity to read the book from James Clear, Atomic Habits. And he goes through a lot of points and how you can succeed in whether in business or sports or anything that you're committed to do. And he mentions the danger zone for anybody trying to do something that can exceed and succeed in that is to become tedious. He doesn't say about procrastination. He mentioned about procrastination, laziness, and lack of interest, etc. But he mentioned about it when you will become tedious, like you lose the interest because it's quite repetitive at some stage, but you have to keep pushing if you want to grow. And he mentioned that a lot of people falls into that zone because whatever project you have, it loses the meaning to you. So people actually just drop it. And as we were speaking, I just felt that, but I'm sure that won't be your case because your brand is very much connected to your values, your personal story, your husband, so there are a lot of pieces of elements in your personal life that built Rhubaia and the app.
I'm so stubborn too, Alex. Like, it's like to quit when you're this far, it'd be crazy. Like, there's a point of no return. We're past that point.
Yeah,
now it's just like stubborn, like we're making this happen.
I started advocating for your brand. I have a friend, she's from Moldova. We go for runs every month together because she's a marathonist and I'm trying to catch up with her speed. So she's one of my motivator in this sense. And as we're talking about, because she always asks, who we spoke to this week? And I talk about like the business founders and CEOs that I met. And you came into the conversation. And she said, when is the app coming? It's already available to download?
Not yet. It's almost there. Right around the corner.
You already have, and my wife was the same. So we already have like, a few fans here in Europe waiting and looking forward for your project. We are very much excited. I'm very much excited and honored, as I said in the beginning of the show, because I love to see that story. I'm actually very interested to see how that's going to evolve. And I'll be very proud when I see that on television or any other outlet media and see, I interviewed that woman, I interviewed Lacey.
Well, we'll see what ends up happening, but it's really cool. There was so much thought. Again, I go back to my team. The team that helped with the design, when we're doing our Figma designs, because you design out the app, right? Early on. You design out all the screens before you start building them. It's part of the process. They put so much heart and thought and consideration into the user experience when we were designing it. I really believe, and the app is going to help anyone, right? Like, no matter how they identify gender-wise or whatever it might be. Of course, our clothing is targeted right now at the female professional, but the app is for everyone. So we're really hoping that people end up having the user experience that we're hoping that they'll have and that we considered when we were designing the tool.
That's very good. Now, shifting a little bit, I want to ask, because you're coming from fashion industry as an outsider because your background is in tech. What is the one thing the traditional fashion industry is getting completely wrong right now and that nobody's inside the industry wants to admit? And you noticed when you jumped into it.
I support first off, before I, start criticizing anything, I
Sure.
really do support everyone in the journey with their clothing lines, with the businesses they're trying. It's a tough out there, especially in the fashion world right now. There's companies that are doing great. There's some that are struggling. So we completely support everyone in where they are in their journey today. But what I have observed is even the brands that are in the sustainable space, they're more focused on educating and helping people learn more about sustainability. They're less focused on fixing the systems that actually can help to reduce, say, global textile waste, help people to shop their own closets, use their clothing longer. So they really focus on introducing, the one piece of our brand, right, which is introducing clothes that people want to buy and wear. But that's just one component, and they tend to focus just within that space. We're taking it, 3 steps further. We're talking about how can we bring technology in and actually help to solve the root cause of the problem? How can we build an innovative system, a pioneering system that's going to help the consumer versus just focusing solely on the clothing and the physical purchase?
Okay. Well, really well spoken. I don't want to put you on the spot. It's just something that I was curious, and now talking about something that can be a little bit sensitive, but I feel I should touch on this point. You are a female founder operating, an intersection of fashion, tech, and the sustainability. 3 spaces that each come with their own challenges. I presume each of them is a different thing that you actually had to figure out by yourself and with your team. What has the experience taught you about building confidence, finding your voice, and pushing through when the room doesn't look like you, especially because it's really well dominated, mostly the industry and the market itself by male. And it can be contradictory because I'm speaking to it, but that's what I see.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
I find people are very interested in that. I get asked a lot of questions about being a female founder. And I've spent my whole career in male-dominated spaces. IT, information technology across the board is male-dominated. Early on in my career, I do have a story. Unfortunately, this is one I tell a lot. So a lot of people have heard it that are close to me. But I had somebody when I was in my 20s and still establishing myself in my career, building up the confidence to believe I belonged in the room and that I was valuable there and that I had something to say. And he said, "Why aren't you in marketing?" And number one, marketing people are incredible. They're intelligent, creative. They're amazing. So, but he's like, why are you in IT? And I was like, where is this coming from? So is this saying I don't belong here in this room? And why? Is it because I look the way that I do? Is it because I'm a female? And I remember very, very stubbornly, and actually this story is part of the reason why there is a technology and systems component to Rhubaia. And I refuse to just be a clothing designer and produce a clothing brand. I made sure there was a technology component to it. I just kind of internalized that and said, you know what? I'm staying in the IT space. I belong here. Whatever it is that people have in their mind about women within tech, and who belongs there and who's invited to the club and who's not invited to the club, I don't care. I'm going to plow through all of this, and I deserve to be in the room. And I know I'm a great, I'm going to be great, or I'm going to continue to evolve and find a way to be great and belong here. And so that actually played into starting the company as well. I'd had all the moments that we all have when we have an idea that we want to start something new. I did all the things, even though I've earned my place in the room in my project management career, and absolutely make sure that I'm present and I don't apologize for my presence in the room anymore. I found myself reverting back to some of the things that I thought I had healed in the younger version of myself when I went to go start this company, where it was like, I have kids. They all still work. I'm still a freelancer. I'm busy. I have another company, a short-term rental property management company. that I run with my husband, we have a lot of things on the go. Do we have the time and capacity to have something else started, right? And maybe I don't belong in this space. I didn't spend all my career in fashion and quote, earn my way into this space. All of this was kind of percolating and I was kind of like working through it, I guess. Like we kind of sit with ourselves and our thoughts. And I looked at my kids and my oldest is she's turning 18 in July and she's just finishing high school. And I looked at her and I said, would I want her to limit herself based off of fear and based off believing if she belongs in the room or not, or if she's the right person to do the job? I would not want her to do that. And I realized it was even not just about me overcoming my own self-doubts, but it also was being an example for my children and that I had to go and make this happen. And because I did feel strongly in my, when you get that feeling in your gut, like you just know you're called to do something and it's like an intuition. It's like a little flame. And it's just like, I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I don't know why, but I just feel it. And I got to do this and I got to be a good example for them. And so we're many different versions of ourselves throughout our life. Who I was when I was in my 20s, even in my 30s. Oh gosh, I've made so many, I've been a lot of different versions of myself, made a lot of mistakes along the way, but we belong in the room and we don't need to apologize for it. And we have a lot of great ideas and things to say, and we belong at the head of the table as well. And we don't have to apologize for being there.
Well, that's very powerful. I hope any women that is listening to this podcast now can feel inspired with your story. I'm sure they will, because it's very much powerful. I like the fact that you mentioned your daughter. Congratulations for her, by the way. She's finishing high school.
She is, yeah. She's really excited.
I would say so. By the way, that question just came up in my mind right now. Do you design as well?
The clothing, I designed the clothes.
Everything's designed.
My daughter actually helped me with one of them. She helped me design one of the dresses. And so I wanted to take her on this journey with me again, because we're trying to inspire her to be, and all the kids I have, so there's 3 in total. And so she's been a little bit of a part of the journey, but yes, we did design the clothes.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm wearing one of them, right now. So actually this is a 100% organic cotton blazer. And then this is one of our shirts as well, or blouses. And it's banana leaf sleeves and then organic cotton body. And so, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, the podcast is open for sponsors, so feel free to send blazers, especially because I record all the episodes on a blazer. It's part of the branding. I'll be happy to get one myself. Actually, I'm very proud to wear them, by the way.
Amazing.
That's interesting. So you got into designing. I didn't know that part, honestly. I missed that point.
You know what? My mom, I don't get to home. My parents live in northern Alberta. I grew up in Lac La Biche, Alberta, Canada. It is pretty far up there in the province. It's very remote. And the closest city is Edmonton. And then Lac La Biche is about 2 hours northeast of Edmonton. And we're in the forest. It's beautiful. Oh my gosh. I grew up in the most beautiful place. The lakes, nature, just natural. Northern lights in the wintertime, just like rolling across the sky. And I grew up on a ranch and always was really, really one with nature. But I came from a really small town. And a part of my self-doubt that I've experienced was, I don't really know if anyone from my town has ever done something like this.
Okay.
And I'm definitely the first to do certain things in my family. Like the first one, woman to be like, I'm going to be a CEO of a fashion and tech company. It definitely, there was a lot of firsts, but I came from this really incredible place, but also very remote, where I guess I had to allow myself and give myself the privilege of saying, people that come from where I come from, we can do great things.
Absolutely. Well,
we can.
And
I hope that inspires people that come from there as well. I really do, because there's some incredible people that come from the town that I come from. Well,
it's one thing that you mentioned that made me reflect. A lot of things that I've done as well in my family, and especially more my family, because in my city, São Paulo, It's a massive city. I came from Brazil. São Paulo city is like 50 million people.
Yes.
When the States is 50 million people. But from my family, I was the first to actually challenge a little bit, like poke the bubble, like, and go through some process. The first one to live abroad, the first one to be interested to learn English. And it was funny because when I was learning, people used to mock me. People has a lot of preconceptions in Brazil about learning English. It's a lot of rejection because they're very proud. And it's fine. Like, I love my language, which is Portuguese, but I always dreamed big. And I said, look, I don't want to go and to do college here. I want to do abroad. But people said, oh, you're poor. Like, you came from nothing. How are you going to make it?
Let's
How are
find
you
a
going
way.
to,
If it's percolating back to that feeling, that little flame in that feeling in your stomach, right, Alex? You're like, but I have this feeling and I really want to do this and I feel called to do it. You got to follow those feelings. Those are guiding you. And you did, clearly.
So, that's interesting. And I resonate a lot to what you're mentioning now, actually. And this, just while we're talking, it just run like a movie, like the flashback of things that I heard. So it's definitely an inspiring story that you carry with you and Rhubaia. It's very exciting. Now, you are at the very beginning with Rhubaia, and that feels like a much more bigger story. Where do you see Rhubaia in the next 5 years, and what's success look like for you, not just as a business, but as a mission? And I know that sounds like an interview question.
Oh, yes. I love it. Questions. Ask all the questions. So we already have a backlog of enhancements and things that we want to do. We have another phase of the project that once we launch, that we're almost going to start working on immediately. And so we're just at the beginning. We already have a roadmap of ideas of how this tool is going to continue to, this platform is going to continue to evolve. And we have some excellent ideas of what else we can introduce to make life easier from a clothing perspective, but also, like, as we're standing in our closets making our daily wardrobe decisions. So we have no intention of stopping after this initial launch. We are going to continue evolving. Obviously, I don't want to, release all the secrets, but it's like, we absolutely have a plan. We have a plan. We don't feel like we're going away anytime soon. And we're going to keep on helping to educate people, I guess, on making sustainable choices, but also introducing systems that help them.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to it. I actually, as I told you, you've been trusting, and you are more than invited and welcome to participate in probably 6 months, 1 year time again. So you can actually catch up and recap how was Rhubaia doing and going. But amazing. Now, as I do traditionally with every guest, you won't escape from it. We play a dynamic which is basically a ping pong, right? I make quick questions. You can't think. You just, whatever comes up in your mind. So basically it's like that. Your favorite song at the moment? At the moment?
It's so embarrassing. Anything Celine Dion. I love Celine. Okay. Celine is my favorite. And that's been since I was like a teenager. I'm like, she's Canadian.
Yeah, that's, I feel like Celine Dion is if it's not the biggest, one of the biggest icons in Canada, because all my friends from Canada, they all talk about Celine Dion. All of them.
Yeah. I used to listen to some of her music on repeat. Like, it was crazy. I would I used to think I was a good singer until I heard myself sing. And then I learned that maybe I'm a little bit not really strong I'm a little tone deaf, but I used to sing anyway. And obviously you have to be incredibly good to sing Celine songs well. I used to drive my sisters crazy singing her songs badly.
Okay. Well, if that comforts you, I love karaoke, right? And when I go to Asian countries like Japan, South Korea, they are very much traditional in that. Like, every bar, they have it. And I just lose my mind. Like, I go crazy. I sing everything. And I love BGs. My wife, she mocks me a lot because I'm an old soul. So I love some old bands. Like, I love some songs by Elvis, Beatles, and BGs, especially, the dramatic ones, like the ones that are talking about love and stuff. I love this kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not a great singer either. I'm much better.
Don't let it stop you. Just sing anyway. It's gotta sing. Makes you feel good.
No, sports. Did you follow any sports? Did you practice in sports?
So I am very busy. I'm running multiple companies and obviously being a freelancer and the kids and everything. But for the better part of my 30s, I actually competed in natural fitness competitions. And so I was a competitive athlete in the fitness space. And I unfortunately have not been able to contribute as much time to that now with everything that I used to. But yeah, I competed 3 different times. Actually, in order to place for the national team, you had to place in the top 3. And at one of the provincial competitions, I did place in the top 3 and qualify for nationals, which I never ended up having a chance to compete in. But I did compete, 3 different times.
Wow, this is something that I could not imagine. Like
you have to be incredibly disciplined. It's very boring actually, because like you're that person that you bring to the restaurant and you take your Tupperware container out or whatever, your chicken, like whatever it is that you eat, right? People prep and eat various different things. But in my case, it was a lot of the chicken and the broccoli. It was just like, you go to a restaurant and people are looking at you like, just order the pizza. And they're like, I can't. My coach is going to be mad at me. Like, I have to eat my weighed out portions. Then you're at the gyms like 6-7 days a week at least. It's interesting. It's challenging, but it takes over your whole life because you have to go all in to do really, really well. And it can be very, very like all consuming.
Now, to close up our conversation, to wrap up the whole thing, I just want to ask you a final question, which is, if you had an outdoor, like a big banner to the whole world, what would be your message?
We want to empower people to wear, share, and explore their wardrobes. That's what we want. We want to make a difference. We want to reduce textile waste, and we want to help people to do that. We want to introduce systems. So our banner is we're here to forge a new era in fashion. We're pioneering it.
Incredible. Well, Lacey, thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for educating us with a lot of insights and interesting facts about your business. I'm sure not only me, but whoever finished the episode right now, it's very much excited and looking forward to see the results and the growth of Rhubaia, and I will be following that close. All I wish to you guys are best of luck. Keep pushing. Count on me if there's anything that I can help in this journey. I'm already advocating to my friends and my peers, and I'm sure I see brilliant things, and I'll become your consumer whenever you launch blazers. Don't forget me. I will be interested to buy blazer.
Remember this.
Mainly black or gray, you know.
Perfect.
And I will be very much proud to wear them and during my recordings. Okay.
Amazing. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate the support.
Thank you so much. And yeah, this is it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Alex Marxs podcast. If this conversation with Lacey helped you think differently about brand and product, follow and subscribe the show. Share this episode with one person who needs it. All the links to connect with Lacey and follow Rhubaia are in the description. Go show her some love, and I will see you on the next time.